So let's talk about a very exciting topic, effect hit rate. This is actually a relevant stat these days, as Hysilens and Kafka are on the current banner. Dot is back, and you actually have some characters that care about effect hit rate. So, I want to talk about what it does, what it is exactly, and why it's relevant to the dot characters. If you're just here for how much effect hit rate do you need, I'm just going to get that out way up front for you. Kafka, you want 75% effect hit rate. Hysilens, you want 120% effect hit rate. And Black Swan, you also want 120% effect hit rate. With EHR, it's kind of like crit rate, where once you hit the amount you need, you don't want any more. But it is a little bit different in that, with crit rate, if you've got like 98 or 99%, you're probably fine. With EHR, you definitely want to have the number that you need. So if you need 120, you want to have 120. And if you have 121 or 122, it's not a problem. Anyway, that's the important stuff. That's kind of all you need to know if you're building your dot team. Kafka 75, the other two 120. Now, if you're interested in learning about effect hit rate and where we're getting those numbers from, that's what I wanted to talk about. So we can start with what is effect hit rate. And you can click on your stats here and click the little question mark if you ever need to know what these stats mean. So effect hit rate increases the chance of applying debuffs to enemy targets. A higher effect hit rate results in a higher chance of successfully applying a debuff. So it affects your chance to apply debuff, and dots are considered debuffs. So it's important for dot characters to be able to apply them. Now let's take a look at why that might be. Let's take one example with Kafka's ultimate. So if we read Kafka's ultimate, it says deals lightning damage equals 86% of Kafka's attack to all enemies. And this is the important part. With a 100% base chance for enemy targets to be hit to become shocked and immediately take damage. So this is her chance of applying her lightning dot with her ultimate. 100% base chance. Now you might be thinking, Jell, it says 100%. Doesn't that mean you're guaranteed to apply the debuff? Why do you need effect hit rate? Well, that's pretty simple. Enemies also have, the same as player characters, they have effect resistance. So if you see your other stat, effect res, that is something that enemies have as well. And so that number gets subtracted from your effect hit rate, or from your base chance. And, it makes it so that 100% does not actually mean 100% in practice because the enemy is resisting it. So what effective hit rate does is it compensates the other way to give you a better chance of applying your debuff. So there's a bunch of math involved with that, and it gets a little complicated because enemies can have anywhere from 0 to 40% effect resistance. But the kind of magic number for EHR that any character wants to have is going to be 66.7% effect hit rate. So what that means is if you have a 100% base chance to apply your debuff, which most debuffs do. Some of them are lower, in which case you need more effect hit rate, but not important for this discussion right now. Let's keep it at 100%. Then if you have 66.7% effect hit rate, that means you are now guaranteed. Now you have a true 100% chance of applying it. You're guaranteed to apply it to any enemy in the game, even all the way up to 40% effect res. So that's important. Number one, 66.7. And that applies not even just to dot characters, but other nihility characters like Pela or Cypher if you don't have her light cone. If you're using the Pearls of Sweat light cone, all of those things kind of have a similar 100% base chance, and you'll want 66.7 EHR for those characters. Now, for the current dot meta specifically, with Kafka, Hysilens, and Black Swan, you may remember that I said they need higher than 66.7%. And that is because each of these characters has special abilities that want you to have more EHR than you need for just applying your debuff. So let's take a look at Kafka first. We said we want her to be at 75%. And that is because of her major trace, called Torture, of course. When an ally target's effect hit rate is 75% or higher, Kafka increases that target's attack by 100%. So that includes her. So this is a number. This is where we're getting the 75% from, and that is a pretty massive attack buff, even by attack buff standards, which are usually pretty high. And anybody on her team is also going to want that 75%. So Hysilens and Black Swan as well. But as we mentioned, they want to go even higher. And it's kind of the same deal where they each have a trace. I think with Hysilens, it's this one. Okay, yes. So Hysilens has this trace, which says, for every 10% of Hysilens' effect hit rate that exceeds 60%, increases her damage dealt by 15% up to a max increase of 90%. So, if this feels like a middle to early high school math problem here, and it kind of is, but basically, if you do the math here, that means to get this max damage increase of 90%, you will need 120% effect hit rate. So that is where we get that number from. Interesting side note, if you go for some Eidolons for Hysilens, as I did, of course, the E2 that she has applies that trace to the entire team. And in the event that you do get E2 Hysilens, now you want everybody on the team to have 120% effect hit rate, because that will get that big damage bonus to everybody. In this case, I'm going to be running Black Swan, who's going to have 120 anyway, but you'll see that my Kafka actually has 120% EHR because I want to take advantage of that E2 Hysilens. But that's E2. Otherwise, Hysilens herself just needs the 120% to take advantage of that trace. And finally, with Black Swan, you guessed it, she also has a trace that is less of an effect than Hysilens, but it's pretty much the same idea, where her damage is increased by the amount equal to 60% of her effect hit rate, up to a maximum damage of only 72%, which is still pretty nice, not quite the 90. And if you do the math on that, 60% of 120 is 72%. So again, you want to be 120 at 120 EHR to get that maximum boost. So how do you get that much effect hit rate? Well, with Kafka, it's not too hard because you only need the 75%. So right off the bat, if you are using a light cone that gives you effect hit rate, like most people will be using before the tutorial mission starts, that off the bat gives you 40%, and then she gets, I believe, an extra 18% from her traces. That puts you at 58. So then you only need 17 more or something like that you can get from your substats. So that's pretty easy to do. And most people should be running before the tutorial mission starts. You may have noticed I am using her signature light cone. That's because I have E6 Kafka, and once you get over E4, it's better to use her light cone. But actually, it is best to use this light cone with Kafka under E4 in most cases. So that would be giving you the EHR. If you're like me and you do decide to use her signature light cone, then it's pretty much the same deal, where you can just play an effect hit rate chess piece that gives you 43%. plus the 18 puts you at 61. Then you only need 14% or something like that. I might be doing the math wrong. I'm trying to do it in my head real quick. You only need a little bit to get out of your substats then to hit your 75. So Kafka's pretty easy. Where it gets more difficult is with Hysilens and Black Swan, because you got to hit that 120 mark. And now you're going to need like 2 sources of EHR. The best way to do it, of course, is to get their light cones, each of which do provide a big chunk of effect hit rate. So again, Hysilens at S1 is 40%, just like the tutorial cone. So I'm getting a big chunk from that. And I also have the effect hit rate chest piece on her. So between the combination of that, the EHR, she does get a little bit of EHR from her traces. I think it's another 10%. And then the rest you got to get from your substats. It is a little tricky with this one, I'll admit, because I think that only puts you at like 80 or 90. So you're still pushing for like another 30 or 40 out of your substats. But it can be done. And, you just have to get the EHR from the 2 different sources. Now, here's the thing. If you don't get their signature light cones, you do have one other good option. And that's what I have on Black Swan, because I actually don't have her signature light cone. And that is the Eyes of the Prey, the Sampo cone, which also gives you that 40% effect hit rate. So same deal. You play that with the chess piece, and you build from there. If for some reason you still can't get the 120, you can play the Pan-Cosmic Commercial Enterprise set, which is what some people were playing prior to the release of the new Revelry set. Your damage will take a hit, but you do get some an attack bonus from it, so it's not completely useless. But this should definitely make it so you can get over the 120%. Like, you could even possibly get away with not playing the light cone that has EHR. So, some people like to play, for example, the Good Night Sleep Well cone, because that gets you a nice damage boost, but it doesn't give you any EHR. So that's one way to do it. I think that's kind of the older method before the Revelry set came out. But generally, you would want to play the Eyes of Prey and a chess piece and hope you get the good substats. So that's pretty much all there is to it. And it's kind of nice, because I think dot characters are much easier to build than a standard attack or even HP scaling crit based character, because your EHR is your only stat that has like a specific requirement. Like, you don't have to play around with crit ratio and all that. You just need to hit your EHR target and then stack up as much attack and speed as you possibly can. Right now, my Kafka is actually embarrassingly slow, as I was trying to ramp up to that 120 EHR. I got to try to now dig up some speed stats. So that's pretty much it. I hope everyone's enjoying the dot resurgence as much as I am. Tell me how your Hysilens and Kafka polls went, or if you need any advice, just leave a comment. And we'll catch everyone next time. Bye.